Hi everyone, this is Gina and I just met her and I'm really excited to have her on into my group and provide some really great value. Um, like I said, I just met her last week. So what is it that you do and share with
Yeah.
my audience?
Okay, yeah, I'm Gina Grant. I'm an author and the founder of Soul Candy Institute. So I teach spiritual practices, I provide soul pampering experiences. Coming up real soon in May, actually, I'm starting a women's group called Mystic Woman. That'll be starting May 11th. And so I'll be helping. I connect with a lot of people who have spiritual gifts, and sometimes they don't know it yet, or they kind of don't know what's going on, but they find me because it's time for them to start kind of embracing their spiritual side. And there are like signs and things that happen in their life that kind of give us the hint that it's time to go in that direction.
Yeah.
So I just help people connect. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have a question, an intuitive question coming. So this is for any type of religious belief, right? Like you can be Christian, you can be Catholic, you can be whatever religion, you could be not religious, you can be
Jewish,
spiritual.
Muslim, New Age, whatever. I mean, the point is that we're connecting with the divine. That's the term I use. Different traditions use different terms for that, like all amazing, loving, powerful, forces of goodness that are behind the scenes doing good things for us. So I'll generally use the term the divine just to kind of be neutral because I honor everybody's spiritual traditions. So
Yes, and I really like that. That way, someone's not turned off by this or they're like, "Oh, like this doesn't align with me." It's like it's connecting to your inner guidance, your divine God source energy, whichever you believe. This is like a supportive group and we're not against your beliefs.
right. Well, and the divine is within you. Yes, I just wanted to reiterate that. So it's all around us doing all this magic for us, and it's within us too. So that's one of the really special things about what I like to do is help people find that within you, because there's so much power and so much joy and just kind of magical goodness that shows up when you start connecting with that.
Yes, and that was what I was connected to meet her was because I listened to that inner guidance and I got rid of that fear and that commotion and all the like how and the why, and that's why I was able to meet her is because I just listened and I just did it without the knowing of why.
Yeah, I think I missed a little bit at the beginning, but you were telling them how you kind of answered this guidance to go to this workshop. Is that
Hmm.
what?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that it didn't really make sense, and I could have just kept second guessing, or like, why would I go? But I was just like, no, like, that's the only one this weekend, and I had this nudge, so I have to listen to it. And yeah, and I couldn't like try and be in my too much of my masculine and be like, well, oh, is she a client? Oh, is she a client? Which did pop up at the beginning, but then I was like, no, like I feel like a connection, so I just need to like get in my feminine and like just see why or see how we
Well, and
can
also you had an attraction to the topic of spiritual gifts.
Mhm.
You were kind of opening up in that way, and so there's like this like knocking on the door of your guidance that's like, okay, it's time to move in this direction. So
Mhm.
when that knock comes and you listen, doors start opening and resources start showing up, and I am one of those resources a lot of times for people.
Yeah. Okay. So, what are spiritual gifts for anyone that may not know, like, what that means?
Okay, yeah. So what we're talking about is so spiritual gifts are the ways that we are equipped and designed to have spiritual connection, to receive spiritual guidance, and also to provide just to provide. I hesitate of what words to use, but to be of service to others in some way. Most of the people, all of the people that I work with, and probably the people here now, we're very caring people. We really want to be of service. We love people. We really care. And so that's kind of one of the signs of this sort of direction in your life. So when you have spiritual gifts and you have this like love of people and this desire to help and serve, um, that's so the spiritual gift is sort of the way that you may be called to do that. So let me just be a little more specific, okay? So some of the spiritual gifts that I work with and have myself are being an empath. And actually, I'm going to ask you guys a bunch of questions real quick to see if you have experiences that might indicate that you have these gifts. So, but let me just list them real quick. So being an empath, which means that you feel other people's feelings and possibly even physical stuff in your body. Okay, so this is a funny one because sometimes people don't know that they have this gift, and when you don't know, you might think all these feelings and stuff are your feelings, and they can be really overwhelming. Some people who are empaths come into this life and they manage all their energies in a really great way, and they don't have that sense of overwhelm. But some people, but a lot of us, we do. I do, or I have. I've learned how, you know, some strategies for managing that. This is one of the most common ones. That's why I'm talking about it so much, because like if you get nervous in public situations, if you get overwhelmed in crowds, those are some signs that you might be an empath.
Yeah.
Tia, was that one of yours?
Yeah, very empathic, and I'm one of the ones that I can manage my energy usually, and I came into this world like able to kind of have that bubble around me so it doesn't affect me too much, but I do feel it if I don't have that protection around me too much, or like if I allow myself to feel. But growing up, I definitely kind of would try and like keep a barrier, and now I'm getting more open and feeling other people's, so it's like a balance. So who here feels like they're empathic, and who feels like they're able to like manage their energy versus who feels like it's kind of overwhelming? Like drop below if you think you're empathic. And drop below, I'd love to hear if you guys have any questions we could answer at the end, or drop below what your spiritual gifts are or what you think they are. So
yeah, if it's connecting with you. Also, just if you are an empath, you probably are called to, you know, some empaths might be called to careers doing spiritual healing. Energy workers a lot of times are empaths, like Reiki practitioners, a lot of spiritual counselors. I would say probably all spiritual counselors are empaths. But you might also be called to regular mainstream careers and work where you're being of service medically, in counseling and education, any ways where you're being able to like really connect with people. That's something that empaths are attracted to. Some empaths actually do animal communication. If you love animals, that might be something. I know that's a big one. We're so sensitive as empaths. We're just so sensitive. So that's one of the spiritual gifts. Shall I name a few more?
Yeah.
Okay. So the obvious ones that we've all heard of, they're the real big ones. The ones that get a lot of attention are being a psychic or a medium. So we pretty much know what those are. But you may be surprised to find out that you may have a gift in that area that you weren't aware of. So let me ask you a question. So I have this checklist here of certain signs that you might have if you're a psychic or a medium. So the first and obvious one is if you've had psychic moments, right? So that would be like you were going to call someone and all of a sudden they called, or you knew you were going to see someone when you went somewhere, or you thought of them and you ran into them. You haven't seen them in 5 years, you know, things like that. So usually if you've had one of those psychic moments, it's just like you have this sense of, oh, that was weird. And you kind of remember it because it was kind of a big deal. So that's one. If you've had premonitions, if you've noticed messages in things like song lyrics or billboards, like you see something or hear a song and you're like, oh, that is totally speaking to me right now. Those are some of the more subtle ones that might come up. If you've known facts about people or events before they happened. And then for being a medium, we know that this is someone who communicates with spiritual beings. We often think of that mostly of being our past loved ones, right? Like people we've loved who've died. But mediums also connect with all kinds of spiritual beings. So here's a couple of signs that you might have. Okay, for me, I have a lot of past loved ones. I have like 30 people who've died from this current lifetime that are around me, some really special and important people to me. And before I started developing my spiritual gifts with my mentor several years ago, I was like hearing songs on the radio. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know my dad sent me that song. Like, I just
Yeah.
know my
Okay.
dad is here with me right now. And
Yeah.
so when I first went to my spiritual mentor, she was like, oh, you're a medium. And I'm like, no, I'm not a medium.
You're like,
Mm-mm.
no, or I'm not
She,
psychic, or I'm not. They're like, it's kind of like this word that we put a
yeah,
different meaning to, and we're just
yeah,
like, well, I'm not psychic. Like, I'm not one of those people down the road gonna give people readings, that type of
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, that's the thing too. If we have these gifts, even like my mediumship gift, I have given mediumship readings, but that's not what I do professionally because that's not what I'm called to do.
Yeah.
You know, so one of the things I can help you do is figure out, why is this happening? I don't want to be a medium. Why am I connecting this way? You
Mm-hmm.
know, so for me in my personal life, my spirit, my past loved ones, my spirit ones are with me to support me. I have a
Mm-hmm.
big journey going on here,
Yeah.
you know, and they're here to like, and my dad came, and I could tell, I have so many stories. I'm going to share them, Mystic Woman, of the ways that he showed up to heal certain things in my life
Mm-hmm.
so that I could really become the person that I was meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
So what was I saying about that? Oh, but my mentor, right? So I go, so she's like, you're a medium. She said it to me several times. I was like, no, I'm not a medium. And she goes, look, you told me that you're getting songs on the radio from your dad. You got a message for your niece from her dad. Like, she goes, that's a medium. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm a medium. Like, how could I have been denying that? You know,
Yeah.
so having someone look at it and really see it and know, you know, I have enough experience now that when I see other people having these kinds of experiences, I can tell them with certainty. I'm like, yes, you have that gift.
Yeah. And
Right?
where we kind of are like, oh, but doesn't everybody? I know I kind of felt like that when I was going down those lists. I was like, oh, but doesn't everybody feel this way? Or, oh, but isn't that normal because it's so regular for me? But actually, if you talk to other people or you start exploring them, you realize, oh, like, cool. Like, you start realizing it is coming up more in your life, or it is guiding you, and then you can enhance it. So,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, yes, everybody, we're human beings and we are actually designed to have spiritual communication, okay? It's part of our design. So we're all designed with the equipment to have these experiences, but what really makes you special is when you're called to use them,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So everybody is equipped with this, but not everybody has the kind of experiences you have. Like, my experiences are very specific and unique to me. My gifts come together in like a kind of a grouping for me to carry out a very specific and unique purpose. Each
Mm-hmm.
and every one of us is very uniquely designed with a specific purpose, and our gifts are here to assist with that.
Yeah.
So if you're having these psychic moments, and the fact that you even remember them is part of an an indication that there's this knock at the door. There's this calling that's like, you are meant to have spiritual experience in your life. Here's a knock at the door to get you curious, to get you looking, to get you, jumping on this live video going, oh, do I
Yeah.
have spiritual gifts?
Yeah.
That's the calling.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to say that your attraction to this topic is the biggest indicator of what you're called to do. Your attractions always come from your soul's plan for your life.
Mm-hmm. I always love that. That actually gave me full body chills, like really, really big ones. So that actually leads to the next sentence, next question. Also, when you guys are listening to this, even if it's the replay, go ahead and drop. Maybe if you're hearing this and you're like, oh, that's happened to me, like drop some of those um, intuitive nudges or experiences you've had. Is it like the radio? Was it a deeper knowing? Was it like a sign or something? I'd love to see some of these below. So comment below and I can return to those, or,
Yeah.
insight.
Let me just tell you a couple more, because those are the big ones, right? And maybe not everybody's called to even have a mediumship connection. Like, maybe you don't have past loved ones to connect with, and some people who don't will still be a medium because that's part of their calling in some way. But okay, so a couple of the more subtle ones. So one would be being an energy worker. Okay, so this is one. So I check off most of the boxes on this checklist of signs that I have these gifts, right? But in the energy worker one, there's one thing that I don't check off this box, which I find really fascinating because people around me do. So this box is having an effect on electronics. I
Yeah.
always like to say that one because when we are, or because like my twin sister, I have a twin sister, we're so different.
Oh.
We don't look alike at all. She looks kind of like Hayden Palmy and Terry. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. She's blonde, big round face.
Oh, Hayden Panettiere. Hayden.
Yes.
Oh, I love her. Oh my gosh, really? How fun.
Yeah.
From
She's
Nashville.
so different. Our bodies are different. Our personalities are different. And her gifts are different. So she'll be like, have a watch and it will just like, you know, freak out, or she'll, you know, her computer does all this glitchy stuff. She'll walk by something and it'll flicker, you know. So there are lots of people who have energy things going on. Also, another sign of being an energy worker, believe it or not, is having autoimmune conditions.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just, my wisdom came through and my guidance told me that when I connected with a couple of people and I kept seeing a pattern. My sister has also had a brush with an autoimmune condition, which actually she used some spiritual energy work strategies, and that's gone away now. Pops up every now and then, but the major thing that was trying to come in, it didn't even show up at all. So that's just one thing. So having autoimmune conditions can be a sign of a calling to be a healer. Okay, so energy workers are healers. If you have body stuff going on, a lot of times it's because you're meant to be involved with helping others with body stuff.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I actually thought of someone when you brought that up. I'm going to tag her. But, and so we covered two. What were the other?
Okay, we actually covered 4 so far. So we've covered being an empath. Okay, that's so common. Probably the most common one that people are not aware of. Being an energy worker. Let me just check and make sure I said all the things for that one. Oh, you may be an energy worker if you're in a place and you notice the vibe of a place, like if you can feel energy. I've worked with students, clients that can feel the energy of a place, and they just feel energy off people.
Yeah. That's something I really feel. I could feel the whole energy of a concert, of a bar, of an event, of a room. And like just like you said at the event, I was like, if I go somewhere and I'm not feeling the energy, I'm like, we should go. Like,
yeah,
I don't like this energy.
Yeah. So sometimes people get overwhelmed by these sensations, and it's because it's just information. And when you learn how to understand what the information is, then you can feel really much more comfortable with it. And you can also tell the energy what to do. So Tia, like you were talking about, you said you put this bubble of protection around you. I tend to use a little bit different terminology. I call it an intention, because there's nothing out there that can harm you. So you don't need to protect, it's just an intention of like, I want to be here with all my good energies. I just want to be here with all my good energies, because that's how you're meant to function. Yeah. So the only reason to take other people's energies into your awareness ever is if it's for an intentional spiritual service. Okay. So like even when we're living with people, when we're empaths and we're living with people, we could pick up their moods so much. My husband and I are both strong empaths. I feel his moods all the time. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I'm upset or he's upset. Like, I don't know. And we have to kind of clear the energy and do some practices. So there's a lot more comfort that you can have in your life when you are understanding that this isn't just some random thing. It's a spiritual gift, and there are ways to work with it for your highest benefit. And then you can really enjoy having the gift and use it for the purpose that you have it for.
Whether that's amplifying your business or helping your clients or getting more clients or being of better service to the world. So
yeah, and the people you love in your home, in your life, your family, when you don't take on their energy, you can actually be so much more service to them if you choose. And then it's also not your responsibility ever to fix anyone or do that. So it's only something you would do when you're called to it. And I don't, let me rephrase that. It's never you who fixes people. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't broken, for one thing. That's something we can explore a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
but it's never your job to ever fix anybody. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you might be called to help somebody. Okay. And that doesn't mean you take on their responsibilities. When we feel people's energies in our bodies, we feel responsible for them because we're like, ugh, I want to get this icky thing out. So how can I fix this, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. So I'm going into a lot of stuff about being an empath.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. A lot of people might need to hear that. What is some good reasons on why you want to work with your spiritual gifts and learn more about them and why it's so important?
Okay, so for me, like this work is really important to me because I spent probably 15 or more than 15 years shutting out my gifts. So I had the empath overwhelm. Like I was taking on all these energies in my body. I knew what people wanted. I knew what they needed. I knew when they were suffering, and I felt like I needed to fix it all. That was the only way I knew how to make it get out of me,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and because I cared about them too. So I got to a point where I was like, I cannot carry all this responsibility anymore. So I'm shutting it out. I don't want to know anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And literally I declared that intention, and your intentions are powerful. And so it really did shut down. It didn't completely go away because I didn't know what I was doing anyway. I was like, I don't want this anymore. So I shut that out, but then I kept getting psychic premonitions, like some really big ones. Um, so, um, so is this a good time to share a story, Tia? Are you reading
Yeah.
what somebody's? Okay. Because I can't see what everybody's writing
Oh,
on
yeah.
my screen.
There's a couple. Someone else does spiritual gifts, and someone has exhortation, wisdom, and knowledge. So like claircognizance, right?
Yes. Okay. So okay, that's so funny. I'm gonna go back to the story because I really want to tell you about this huge premonition I had that really changed my life. But before we get there, okay, so we have being an empath, we have being an energy worker, psychic, medium, and then the one I haven't mentioned yet, the fifth one, is being a wisdom channel.
Okay.
Okay. I imagine that a lot of you who are here, because you work with people who are providing service, right? I imagine that a lot of you may be wisdom channels. So that's what it sounds like. The one who was mentioning, what was it?
Exhortation, wisdom, and knowledge. I actually don't know
Yes.
what exhortation means.
I think it means guiding and teaching, if I remember correctly. Um, so if you have ever been called an old soul, if you felt like you're an old soul, if you find that people come to you because they want to talk to you, you find yourself being encouraging. So, you know, just ask yourself, like, have you ever had that experience? Have you ever known just what to say or do? And you're like, I don't really know where that came from. You know, like, I've been channeling wisdom since I was a child. I came into this life with the veil kind of partially there, you know, the veil of human spiritual experience. So, like my elders would, you know, my mom and her friends, they'd be talking about people, and I'd be like 4 years old, and I'm like, well, you know, she did that because she felt like this, and blah, and I'm like telling them things, and they're like, you know those kids who say the darndest things. So that's one of my stronger gifts. I've been channeling wisdom, and so that's one of the reasons why I like to help other people connect with their gifts. You know, that's why I'm not just doing readings, which is a beautiful healing gift by itself, but I'm just called a little differently.
Yeah.
So you may be a wisdom channel if you have people coming to you, if you're the person that people go to for advice. Yeah, let's see. You've just known, oh yeah, you're inclined to find the silver lining. You know, if you have that kind of instinct and encouragement thing, that's connected with this one too. So we covered all 5 now.
Awesome. And who here has been called an old soul? Like drop below, old soul below, or just say that you have. I definitely have. And there's actually some guidance online on how you can like find out more about that, which is very interesting. And so what was that story that you wanted to share that made?
Yeah, like why this is so important to me. So I shut all of that out. I became an atheist. So I had had a spiritual background before. I became an atheist and a nihilist, which means I didn't believe there was any meaning in anything. It was just me here on this little planet, or little me here on this huge planet in this huge universe with the weight of the world on my shoulders, going like, I'm scared. How am I, just scared and alone, really, really feeling alone. And then, but I was having some psychic moments in the midst of this, right? And I'm like trying to explain them away through science, which I think you can do actually, because I don't think science is separate from this stuff, but it just hasn't quite caught up to everything. So one of my really most personal and most impactful psychic moments was having a premonition. So the love of my young life, my college sweetheart, I talked to him on the phone. No, it was, sorry, before that. So I had a premonition. Somebody asked me what was going to happen in our relationship. We were on and off, and we were broken up at the time, and I was graduating, and they asked, what do you think will happen? And so I had several premonitions with him over the course of our relationship. And I went into this place within, and I was like, what's going to happen? And I went there, and usually I saw like, oh, he's going to do this, or this is going to happen. And I saw nothing, like literally just nothing. I felt nothing. And then I got a flash of a funeral. And so the people that were there, this church, like everything, he ended up dying a month later in an accident. And the church and the people that I've never been to this place before, the lighting, it was a premonition. And at that time it was devastating. Obviously I was devastated. I was in love with him to the day that he died. And I had unanswered questions, and he said he was going to send me a letter the night before he died. Never wrote the letter. So it was just a big deal. And I was like, shutting it out, avoiding it. And then at some point years later, I became really interested in my spiritual gifts again. And I was like, okay, so why do I want this? Why would I want a premonition like that? I got this premonition. I didn't know it was a premonition. I couldn't do anything to save his life. Why did it even come?
Yeah. So anybody have that where you're like, well, what's the point? Or why? And then like mad at it? Or is this a bad thing? That kind of thing.
Yeah, like I've worked with people who get premonitions like the one I had, and they felt like guilty because they weren't able to change the outcome. I just want to say that is not why we get these premonitions. That's not why we have these gifts. It's not so that we can change outcomes. That's not on our shoulders. And that's what I mean about being alone in the universe. You're not alone. There's a bigger picture going on here. So that's what actually one of the things I figured out, like, I got that premonition not to save his life, but to save mine. Because I went through my darkest days after that. His family did not acknowledge my connection with him. They liked his previous girlfriend better.
So that would be hard.
So I was just completely alone, and having that moment, or having that premonition, was like a voice from something so much bigger saying, yes, you were connected to him. You matter. This relationship matters. And then, beyond that, what I realized, I kept asking this question when I started being interested in my spiritual gifts. I was like, why do I want this? Do I want to predict lottery numbers? Why would I want to know the future?
Yeah.
And when I finally got the answer, like everything opened up. And what the answer was for me, and what I know it is for all of you on some level, is that the answer is because I had that psychic moment, I knew I wasn't alone in the universe. I knew there was more for me. I knew there was help for me. I knew there was love in this powerful, energetic universe for me. And so just not feeling alone and not feeling like my life was meaningless anymore, that was for me why I wanted to go down this road.
And so what would you say to people being like triggered by the word psychic, or like what what's the difference, or that you don't have to just become a psychic. It's like a kind of a different knowing, guidance.
Yeah. I like the word psychic because it really feels mystical to me, and it's really magical. Like, I want to know that there's more to this life than our five senses can experience, right? So I like the word, but I do understand it has a stigma. And I mean, personally, I don't care about the stigma, but if you do, like, don't use that word. These, like, all these five categories I talked about, being an empath, an energy worker, a psychic, a medium, and a wisdom channel, the words don't matter at all. Like, what matters is what your soul came here to do,
or what you're connected with.
Yeah. So if you have had psychic moments, and that doesn't mean you're going to become a psychic reader. I mean, some of you will, and it's a beautiful gift, by the way. I want to say that, having a psychic gift can really bring hope and healing to people. So if you're willing, release that stigma, because I mean, I don't know who's doing what out there. I just know that I'm coming from an honest place, and that's all you really need to know for yourself and your gifts, and your experiences. So you may not, I mean, I'm not called to be a psychic reader either. I have a huge psychic gift, but I'm called to use my gifts to guide other people to connect with themselves and with the divine and the spiritual support that's out there, and to open up the flow of connection.
And I had a question come to me. So why is it so important to have help with this, or to help identify it, especially at the beginning stages, and to not try and do this new thing on your own, or how to harness it? Why is it so important to have that help and guidance?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's really, so I will say that it's not wrong to do it alone. Like, we have everything we need within us to be fully expressed, as you like to use that term. We have everything we need within us to fulfill our purpose, our soul's plan, to have joy and thriving, okay? And that includes developing your spiritual gifts. So what the benefit of having a teacher is, one, if you're attracted to a teacher and a teacher shows up, that's actually part of your soul providing you a resource. Okay, so when I say you have everything within you, it means you can go within and say, look, I'm ready to open this up, and then all of a sudden a teacher shows up. Okay, so we don't have to do it alone.
That's literally what happened. I literally claimed, I was like, okay, I'm noticing that I have spiritual gifts, and they're, in and out, and it's been guiding me. And I'm like, I am interested in this. I'm interested in learning more about this, what it means. And then voila, like, literally I opened it up, I listened to my intuition, and that's how we met.
Yeah, so when a teacher shows up and you're attracted to them, those are two things to really be aware of. It's usually so that you can kind of quicken the pace of your development, and so you can kind of like free up the energy that's going, am I doing this right? Am I making this up? I mean, that's a big one that I think that happens for us, is that it helps when we have someone else who has experience to hold a space. And what I mean is to hold a structure of faith and knowing that this is real, knowing what's true, what's real, and holding that space so that you can step into an energetic space that's already created for you. So you don't have to build everything. You can just really focus on what your discoveries are. And you take the gifts that you get from a teacher, and then you just take what resonates with you.
Maybe not feel like lost or stuck or second guessing what's what's not. And then maybe a guide to help you, like, down the path, if you are struggling, to, like you said, get there faster, and to start bringing them out more, to amplify the gifts.
Yeah, and also to help you become aware of things you just don't already know. I mean, yes, you have everything within you. You could open up a psychic channel and just channel all that stuff in. But if you don't have a lot of experience or a lot of trust in your ability to do that, it might just be easier not to reinvent that wheel.
Yeah, to have a roadmap, and not to just keep second guessing and be lost or like stuck when you hit a wall and be like, well, I don't know. So it's nice to have that, just like anything, like a business coach, a fitness coach, to help you get through those blocks and to help you harness them and grow faster, I think.
Yeah, keep you moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Let me
Kind of
see if
like my mentor. And you're a medium. I'm like, no, I'm not a medium. Yes, you're a medium. Okay,
yeah.
I get it now.
Yeah, whereas if she would have maybe not had that mentor, it could have been like a year or 2 or 3 till she was like, "Oh, okay." And then she does it kind of like a slower rate. So it's if you're really feeling this inner intuitive nudge to be like, "Ooh, I actually I am curious about these gifts. I do want to start using them in my life. I do want to start amplifying them, using them more in my business or my life or, just to connect with more people." Then this might be that nudge that you saw this video.
Yeah, I mean that's another thing. It does attract, when you start opening the flow of connection and opening up your trust with this, you also will. I'm going to teach you about other things too in Mystic Woman, like about signs and synchronicities. I guess Tia, you kind of are talking about the synchronicity of us meeting. There, when you start opening up the flow, then people show up.
Yeah.
The people that you're wanting to connect with, maybe a partner, a business partner, a romantic partner. Opportunities start showing up. And you start getting signs and messages, which for me is just pure joy and fun in and of itself. But then it's constantly reminding me that I'm not making this up, you know?
Yeah. That's what I thought. I was like, I'm just making this up with the energy. But then I started to notice it more. And then I started to see things online. And then I went to that and I was like, oh, that's a thing. I thought, I don't know. I had no idea. And just started like little things would come up. And then, yeah.
Yeah, so like in Mystic Woman, when I'm working with some ladies over a long, like we're gonna go 3, 6, 9 months, depending on what they've chosen, and I'm gonna help them like open this flow, keep it open, really start to understand and see what's real and what's what. Um, so um, just ask yourself a couple questions. So, like, one of the things that I hear is like, people asking, like, how do I know if I'm called to this? Like, how
Yeah.
do I know if I'm one of those people who's called to having spiritual gifts?
Uh-huh.
So a couple ways that you can know is like, ask yourself, so have you ever felt like sometimes a sense of being lost or a sense of meaninglessness?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's one of the things. Have you ever felt overwhelmed or like avoided, your gifts, overwhelmed from energy, crowds, avoided gifts, like if you're seeing spiritual things happening? Um, have you ever felt alone or judged from being because you're different or you're very sensitive? That's something I got a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you've experienced? The other thing is, like, a lot of us, because we're so sensitive, we may feel a little like uncomfortable with all the negativity in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, imagine going from feeling all of that, like overwhelm or sense of being lost, and now, in a couple weeks from now, you're connecting with people like us and people like you, like really soulful people, and finding out that you're not weird or different, you're
Mm-hmm.
special.
Yeah.
And then when we start getting together like this, we start shining our own light and seeing our own light. We start seeing so much more of the light that's in the world. And we really get a different perspective on how to be in this world. We want to get away from our daily lives and get immersed into this mystical awareness, so that when we spend time in it, that's part of how we open it up. Okay, the more time that we spend in it and the more time we spend talking with other people who are in this, we create a sense of reality where people are good to us, people are good to each other. There's lots of support for us behind the scenes. In order to maintain that reality, we need to be around other people who are living that way, and we need to be spending time just with our attention on that, because otherwise we can kind of get sucked into the like mainstream cynical thing that's going on out there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so come out to Mystic Woman, and in 3 weeks from now, your reality is going to shift, and we're going to keep giving energy and love to that shift so that it lasts.